All right. But first things first, let's look at our assignments here. So, oh, this is not the right syllabus. Yeah. All right, week 3, Unreal Engine 101. So the next 2 weeks, we're also in here. We will be continuing with Unreal Engine stuff. So this week, your assignment is to build a simple scene in Unreal. Has nothing to do with motion capture. Just build a virtual world. Go wild. Be about whatever you want. There's no prompt or anything. For those of you that have little to no experience in Unreal Engine, this is an opportunity for you to browse the marketplace. Again, I'm not asking you to buy anything, but you're spending those NYU bucks, so I don't know, maybe you buy everything. But browse the marketplace and just look at what's available. Okay, get a sense of, and keep in the back of your mind, like, idea for final project wise, this is the stuff I have to work with. Okay? I think that'll be useful for you to do. So I've made it to like week 11 before, and the student's like, so where am I supposed to get 3D models? Man, killing me. So browsing the marketplace, and I want you to find some stuff and build a world with it. Now, on the marketplace, there's a lot of fully completed worlds. Just dragging in a fully completed world, not really that beneficial to you, also not really satisfying the assignment, all right? So I want you to remix assets. I want you to pull assets from different packs. You can start with a base world if you want, but I want you to chop and screw it around with it and make it your own, okay? This should be fun. If this isn't fun, then this class is not going to get more fun, We're building worlds in Unreal. So that's the ask, and then I want you to post documentation of that world. Screenshots. If you want to do a screen recording of yourself driving around the world, that sort of stuff. Next week, we'll use Sequencer, so I'll show you how to actually render out videos from Unreal if you don't know how. For right now, for this assignment, you could just screen record with OBS or something, whatever you want, to get it up on your blog. And then I also want you to watch these videos. This one, the bottom one, would be very useful for next week when we use Sequencer. Any questions about that? Pretty straightforward. All right, let's do it. So here I have my Epic launcher. Is everybody able to get this to work? Yeah, I know we were struggling with some people. There was error messages on the computer. Looks like they still didn't work. I'll have to figure that out. In order to get into this and have access to the marketplace, you need to log in, which means I think you can log in with Google and Facebook and half a dozen other different services. Personally, I would just make an Unreal Engine account, because this is the beginning of your beautiful, long Unreal Engine career, right? So you might as well sign up. And make an account. Make an Epic account. Because then you can also play Fortnite. So today's demonstration is more me kind of walking through things, less you following along one-to-one. So if you're not even logged into the Epic Launcher right now, don't panic. You just follow along with me. If you're familiar with all this stuff, then good for you. All right, I'm going to start a brand new project. Click on the launch button in 5.3.2. Let this launch. When projects are loading in Unreal Engine, we have a lot of impatient students. Sometimes you'll see the little percentage going across here, depending on how powerful your computer is, or what template that you're starting with, or how big your project is. It might pause at 30%, 75% for what seems like an eternity. Just wait longer. Don't freak out. So after I launch a new project, it's going to ask me, which template do I want to use? Like I said, I like to use the games blank template unless I'm doing a mix or like a film project. If you want to mess around with the third person or the first person templates, you can. Doesn't really matter. You can make whatever project you want in any of the templates. They're just presets to get you started. Typically, I would suggest for you to leave this starter content button checked, which should be the default, but for some reason it's not. Starter content gives you some basic stuff to start with. And choose where you want to save this project. My suggestion to you is to save this to your USB SSD directly. Unless you're comfortable with saving it to locally to the computer and then transferring it after class. So I'm just going to make a new project. This is where I keep all my Unreal Engine project on my T drive. I don't know what yours is. And then my project's going to be called MoCap Class 2024. And I'll also give the project a name. This is the name that it will have in the launcher when it pops up. So I'll just call it the same thing, MoCap Class 2024, whatever you want. Then click the Create button. And it will disappear, pop back up this Unreal Engine logo, and be patient. Please ask questions if you have questions. What's up? Which template? I did game bit blank. They're just presets. You could turn a game blank into first person if you just turned on the stuff. So depending on the template that you picked, yours may look the same or different than mine. Or if you're not doing it at all, and so we spent 2 weeks on Unreal Engine basic stuff in this class, because if we spent the entire semester, we wouldn't be able to do motion capture. So most of you have little to no experience in Unreal Engine. That's kind of expected, but we do move pretty quick through this stuff. And there is an ask of you to practice this stuff on your own and learn about it on your own with the stuff that I put on the syllabus for you to watch and that sort of thing. My hope is that it's interesting to you, which is why you took the class, so you're eager to consume everything you know about the software. But we're not going to spend a ton of time learning the basics. We will learn them by doing things. I've been using Unreal Engine for over 20 years, and there's parts of Unreal Engine that I have no idea about. All right, so you might have a different map than me. What I like to use, though, this is kind of the default Unreal Engine map now, but I don't really like this one. So I'm going to go up to File, New Level, and this is the open world map template. I'm just going to go to Basic. If you wanted to start with a completely empty one, you could, and there would be nothing in there. But I'm going to start with Basic. Just make some more simple worlds. So everything that I see in this main viewport here is what's in my world. Everything that's in my world is listed up here in the top right. This is called the outliner. Think of it sort of like a picture of what's in your world. The stuff, the actors that are in your world. So in this world, I have the floor, which is that checkerboard thing on the floor, on the ground there. There's a volumetric cloud, which is what this fluffy cloud is. There's some lighting in here, the skylight, the directional light. There's some fog in there. There's sky atmosphere, which is an actor that gives you the sun and stuff. It's not much in here, but there are like 8 different things. You can go through and delete these if you want. You can keep them, you can modify them. This is just a starting map. So if your world doesn't have fluffy clouds in it, then delete them. This is just a starting point. But oftentimes I like to start with this rather than just the blank or the empty map that we saw. Yeah, empty level, because that's nothing, you know? It's a black void. Navigation. If you've ever used 3D before or played a video game before, this should be very easy. Hold down left mouse button allows you to push your disembodied head through the world by holding down left click and moving the mouse. You hold down right click, think of that like moving your head around. Head look. If you hold down the middle mouse button or both left and right mouse button, that allows you to do panning, or in video game terminology, strafing. A really useful keyboard shortcut to know is the F key, F for focus. If you click on, say just, if you're in the same map as me, just click on one of these icons and hit the F key. You will warp right to it, which is really nice for you to jump around the world. If you select the sky and hit F, it's going to zoom out of the world. So Unreal Engine 101, it's not a mistake, but this happens really easily. Oh, now how do I get back to my little platform? And then the student spends the next hour trying to get themselves back to the platform. You don't have to do that. Just double click on the floor or select the floor and hit the F key so you zoom back to that stuff. Other really useful keyboard shortcut to know, if you've done 3D modeling like Maya before, this is the same thing. If you focus on something with F and then let go, and then if you hold down the Alt key on your keyboard and left click, you can orbit around that selection. And your camera view orbits around the pivot point, which has that little gizmo. If you hold down the Alt button on your keyboard and use the right click button, You can zoom in and out. Eventually, this just becomes second nature, and you do all these things in tandem really quickly. Questions so far? Alt, hold down Alt, and then hold left click. You need to have something selected to do it, because incompatible. I'm selecting the floor. Hold down Alt, hold down left click, wiggle mouse. Got it? What? It's selected?
I can do that.
Are you in the gigantic world or in this world?
I did not. You were joking. That's that. Oh. So then we gotta rotate around. If these are children, yeah. So I have to really make sure that. Yeah. Yeah. I managed to find this way. That's all right.
That brings up a good point, though. Just like with any software these days, Unreal Engine is completely configurable. You can drag these menus off, place them wherever you want, place them on a second monitor if you want, customize the interface to your heart's content. Also, a lot of functionality is hidden behind tabs. Like up here. We're not really going to talk about layers or levels in this class, but there's a lot of functionality that's hidden behind tabs. There's also a lot of windows that are not even activated. Like all of this stuff is just not even activated right now. If you ever accidentally close down a window, you can go back to the Windows menu up top, just like in Photoshop or something like that, and open it back up. Questions so far? All right. Some other basic stuff. So this is the outliner, which we talked about. It shows all the stuff in your world. You can select things by clicking on them in the world, or you can click on them in the outliner. The outliner can get really big when you have a lot of stuff in your world. You can organize by putting things in folders in the outliner. You create separate levels, but we're not going to get into that. The details panel down below that shows details about the thing that you have selected. So this floor, for instance, this is its transformation details. This is its location in 3D space. This is its rotation. This is its scale. You can change things like that here. There are also a load of other details that you can get by clicking on these little. This is one thing I dislike about default Unreal Engine 5. Click on these little panels to get more details about the object that you're clicked on. Not so important for something like the floor in this case, but eventually when we have, say, animated characters in here, we'll want to click on the animated tab to add an animation to the actor. Can also see the mesh that's associated with this floor, the material that's on this floor, the grid. What if I want to move this around? So I already told you the details panel down here tells you the transformation details. You could type numbers in here. You can click and drag. You could also do this stuff in the world itself if you prefer that way. You can click on this and drag it, move it up and down, rotate it. How do I get rotation and scale? Spacebar on your keyboard cycles through. It's where everybody's tap your keyboard. Cycles through the little gizmo, the transformation gizmo, rotation, translation, and scale. You can also, the option up here, next to that arrow icon, you can click on those buttons up there to do the same thing. You know, with any software, there's a half dozen different ways to do the same thing. Yeah, I kind of show you one or two ways to do things in the interest of time. By no means is it maybe the best for you, but you have to discover that on your own. This little circle right here goes between local and world transformation. These icons up here are snapping. So snapping translation to the grid. Common question that comes up is, I can't place the object where I want, teacher. It just keeps jumping. Because you have snapping to the grid clicked on. Click the blue icon. It won't snap anymore. Right now, I have rotation set to 10-degree increments. So it's going to rotate in 10-degree increments. If you want to rotate in infinitely smooth increments, turn it off. Also, this will be useful for those of you that download enormous worlds from the marketplace. This little camera icon right now that has a 1, it's your camera speed. Right now, if I want to get across this world, I need to pick up my mouse to drag across this platform. I feel like a gymnast in the Olympics floor exercise right now. Going across. But if I cranked up my camera speed, say to 32, now I move the mouse a little bit and it zooms across the entire world. So that's useful if you have bigger worlds. Or if you're an elite gamer, you know, and you have like lightning twitch reflexes, high DPI mouse, and you just like it like that. Questions so far? Question? The globe. So this is cycles the transformation gizmo coordinate between world and local. So every object has its own transformation, like this floor, for instance. Or actually, let me drag in a cube real quick, and I'll show you how to do that. This is not the best example. I'll go back and show you how to get into all this in a second. I'm just pulling up an asset right now. Chair. Even that's not a good example. So the world itself has a certain orientation to it, right? As you can see in this icon right now. So blue is up, Z is up, blue is Z. Green, positive Y is coming towards me right now, and positive X is going off to the right that way for this chair. So the world has an orientation to it, but objects can have orientations to them too. So say you made this chair in Maya or something like that, which by default is positive Y up instead of positive Z up. So if I clicked on the orientation for local space versus world space, I can alternate between those two orientations. It's kind of abstract until you actually see it. And I was trying to show with an example, but it's not. It's the same in my starter content right now. The one directly next to it, Well, these three, oh, surface snapping. I've never actually used that before. Interesting. I guess that snaps objects to the surface. But I was talking about these three here. This is snap to the grid with movement, snap rotation in increments, and then snap scale. Rather than having it be smooth, it jumps. And this button off to the extreme right here changes your viewport from a single window to multiple windows. If you've ever worked in 3D before, you've probably used to the 4-up view, or even After Effects has a 4-up view. Helps you really narrow things down and place them. And then if you click on any of these windows in the top right, it will make that window full screen. I clicked on this kind of 4 block here in the top right. Other simple things while we're up here in this menu. So the one that's labeled perspective right now, you can change to a different type of camera. I could change this viewport to a top view, or a bottom view, or a left view, or a front view. I can get orthographic views rather than a perspective view. Perspective is like what we see with our eyes or what you would see with a camera. Orthographic view has no perspective, which is useful for composing things in the world. Sometimes perspective can make it more difficult to line things up. Maybe you're making a game that is forced perspective. Usually you just leave this perspective unless you're laying things out. The one that is labeled lit currently allows you to go into a different view mode. This is very basic Unreal Engine stuff. Right now we're in lit mode, which means we see things with the lighting. If I went into unlit mode, it shows me my world without lighting. It's an unlit world. Wireframe mode, reflections only mode, lighting only mode. This is what it looks like without lighting. This is what it looks like in wireframe. Just different modes to help you visualize things while you're constructing your virtual world. Reflections is always pretty. Ooh, shiny. Really, these are useful more for optimization than something that we're going to use in this class. The show menu just allows you to filter certain things out. This is useful if, once we get into particle effects, sometimes the particle effects just take up too much room. Can't see things. So we'll just turn them off. This little hamburger icon in the top left has some useful options. If you want to see your current frame rate. Game view is really useful. Screenshot is really useful. We'll see that in a little bit. Game view. So you can go into game view in this top left menu here. Game view shows you what it looks like when you play the game. It gets rid of all of the icons for the lights and stuff. It gets rid of the movement gizmo, gets rid of all that stuff. Gets rid of all the icons. Game view can also be activated with the G key, G for game, on your keyboard. But if you want to delete something from your world, select it and hit the delete button. Any questions before we start putting something in the world? All right, so by default, you should see this menu, Place Actors, off to the left of your screen. If you don't, you can get it by going to Window, Place Actors. If you close it down or something. So this menu allows you to place primitive shapes into your world, allows you to place lights into your world. It's one of the ways. There's a lot of different ways to do things in Unreal. We click on the little cube icon here. This is the Shapes menu. So I can drag in these basic primitive shapes into my world. Just drag them in. If you want to easily duplicate things in Unreal, you can use Control-C, Control-V to copy and paste. You can use Control-D to duplicate. Usually the way I duplicate things is by selecting it, holding down, the same way as in Photoshop, selecting it, holding down Alt, and then grab onto the transformation and drag, and you just drag a new one off. You have to let go of Alt every time you want to do a new one. Before we move to the content browser, we'll look at the lights because they're here. Little light bulb icon in the place actors window. Point lights, spotlights, rectangular lights. I'm going to drag in a spotlight. If you don't see the light icon, it's because you're in game view, so hit the G key. That will make all of the UI elements come back. Place the light, and go back down into the details panel while it's selected, and I can change things like the color or the intensity, the cone size of the light. If I make this 800 instead of 8, or 8,000 instead of 8, now it's very bright. Different types of lights. Point lights. To click on the directional light, even turn down the power of the sun. Now, by default in Unreal Engine, has this thing called eye adaptation. Think of it like you go and watch a movie in a dark theater, and you come out and it's the middle of the afternoon. You're like blinded by the sun, right? It takes a little couple seconds for your eyes to adapt to the light, but eventually they adjust. My example here, I have this really bright light on these spheres up top. If I zoom into them, cut everything else darkened out to bring the exposure on this blown out surface of this sphere within it, bring it back into range of exposure. It darkened everything else out. This auto exposure thing can be useful, but I usually find it super annoying. We'll come back to it again next week, I think, when we talk about cameras. But for your purposes, for this class, it's still kind of important. Let me show you how to modify it. If you click on the lit or the view mode category up top, and you go to the bottom here, it says exposure, game settings. And then there's a slider at the bottom here. You turn off game settings. You can manually adjust the slider to adjust your exposure. Now, it's not going to adjust when I zoom in close on this. It's still going to stay just as bright because I turned it off. So if you find yourself your lighting changing when you change your position around the world, go ahead and turn that off. View mode menu, game settings, and then set whatever you want your exposure value to be. Eventually we will do this in cameras, but we're not doing cameras today. All right, we're running out of time, so we'll pick up the pace a little bit. I just want you to experiment for the assignment. So we're going to look at how to add marketplace assets real quick. It's pretty simple. But first, I'm going to show you where the content browser is. So the content browser, the content drawer is down in the bottom left. You can click it and it just automatically disappears when you go back to the world. Personally, I like to dock it in my menu. So on the right side, it says dock and layout. I like to just keep it in here. Or that starter content I told you to add to your project. It's a bunch of preset stuff in here. It's just basic stuff that you can drag into your world. Chairs, couch, stuff. There's some particle effects in here. Question? Sure. So the content drawer, just click it down in the bottom left. Do you not have the starter content folder? No? When you created the project, you just didn't check the box. That's all right. I can show you how to get it real quick. Click on the add, green plus add button, and up top it says import to /game starter content. Or no, actually no. It says add feature or content pack. You go to content, then it should say starter content. Then just add to project. You should see the same folders as me then. So this is just some basic starter content. Not very exciting, but it's just some stuff. But what if I want to add more stuff, say from the marketplace? Well, I'm going to open back up the Epic Launcher. Sometimes the Epic Launcher likes to close automatically. I'm going to go to Marketplace. You will need an account to do this. Marketplace, every month, Epic releases things for free. Whether you use them or not, you should download them and add them to your account. You don't even have to download them. You just need to purchase them for free. Who knows when you might need a stylized modular crystal mine. Right now it's free. It was $40. In 3 weeks, it will be $40 again. So if you go to the Marketplace tab, there's a free section where there's just tons of free stuff. But every month I go in here, not every month because I'm lazy, but I'll peruse it every now and then, and I'll go and be like, oh yeah, you know, I don't know when I'll need an advanced CRT TV VCR effect, but why not? Fantasy interior environment, why not? Now, I'm not sure how long this is going to take to add to my, let's try the internet. I'm going to click add to cart. I'm going to check out. It's free. Loading my order. Place order for $0. Email has been sent. So now, if you go back to your library, your vault below your projects is all your stuff that you've gotten from the marketplace, whether you bought it for free or you paid money for it. I have lots of stuff. When you click on something, or when you locate what it is, I always have trouble finding it. But the stylized mine that I just got says add to project. And click the button to add to project. You're going to find your project now. MoCap Class 2024, that's what I called my project. If you don't see your project here, don't panic. It happens oftentimes where there's an incompatibility between the version of Unreal that you're using and the version that the project or that the asset was made in. Just click Show All Projects up top here, and then click it. And it might say down bottom here, like, incompatible, which version do you want? Just pick the most recent version, even if it's Unreal Engine 4. It should work. In this case, this seems to be a newer asset. Add to project. Oh, only 500 megabytes. Maybe it will download, maybe not. Running up to the end of class here, so I know some people have to jump, but I just have a couple more minutes for the rest of you. If you have to jump, that's fine. Yeah, this is not going to download in time. see if I have anything installed in here already. Something small. Animal variety pack, sure. The NYU's internet's so slow for me. Too slow. Maybe it's fast for you guys because you have Ethernet. Not for me. Should have been. Well, actually, it seems like I already have one downloaded here. I don't know why I have this airplane installed on my laptop, but I'll install that to projects because I don't need to download it. So it says adding to project. And then if I go back to Unreal Engine, look at that. Now I have a folder called commercial plane. Now I could put, a Boeing in my world just by dragging it in. Oh yeah, look at that. Of course, it's on fire. Now it's on fire. It's a masterpiece. So your assignment is to make a masterpiece. Build a small virtual world, and I want you to document it. Screen recordings, screenshots. Let me show you how to take a high resolution screenshot in Unreal first. In the top left menu here, this little pancake icon, if you click that and go down to high resolution screenshot, this is better than just print screen because you can take really high resolution ones. If I change the screenshot multiplier to a higher number, I hesitate to tell you to make this bigger than 3 or 4 because it might crash your computer. Click capture. Look at that, made it real quick. It pop up down in the bottom right. This is saved in your project folder if you lose that pop-up in the bottom. And now I have a nice PNG of this crashed Boeing. Question. The fire was in the starter pack, starter content pack. Correct. So anything that you get from the marketplace, like if you got all the free stuff for this month, it goes into your vault. Just half of this is free stuff, half of this is purchase stuff. And it lives here indefinitely. And it doesn't even have to stay on your computer. You don't have to download it to reserve it, if that makes sense. Yeah, and I just want you to familiarize yourself mostly just with the interface in Unreal. These projects don't feel like this is the beginning of your final project. Don't stress out. But it should be, obviously. you know? Sorry for rushing through that. We had so much fun with inspirational projects that we didn't have much time for this. But this is just the beginning. And next week will be a similar sort of thing to what we did now, except we'll start to bring in animations. So it'll become more motion captured. Start to talk about cameras and the timeline too. Any other final questions? Feel free, send me a DM on Discord if you're struggling or something, but this should be a pretty easy assignment. Usually what's the hardest part of this assignment is just getting Unreal running, but that should not be a problem anymore. So we have this room. All right. All right. See you next week. I will post this video if you like the sound of my voice and want to listen to it again. Cheers.